speak, with the crops being unable to be sowed. I will also like to bring to your attention that this is an unusual situation that was created in Pakistan. The conventional floods came with the rivers, but this one came from the sky in areas where we did not have rainfall for maybe a couple of years. And then all of a sudden we have rainfall which goes on for about 7 or 8 days or 10 days continuously, with roads disconnected, broken, railway tracks uprooted or underwater, helicopters not reaching the needy who need food, medicine, and even shelter sitting on the roadsides with rain pouring on them mercilessly. So this new change we can see where we were expecting 40% more rain. It was more than 300%, 500%, and some places 1700% more than what the previous 30 years average was. So Pakistan is going to live with this for a very long time. It's not going to go anywhere. The water is still there. By the time the water comes down, then the rehabilitation work will start. And it will not be finished in months. It will take years and years. And we are going to live with it for many years. But as we speak, everyone is concerned. But a time will come in a couple of months, the world will forget what happened in Pakistan and they will move on. It will be business as usual. And I strongly feel this is a warning. Some other country could be next, God forbid. We would never want to see a single person die, as that would be death of humanity anywhere in the world. Every life is precious, whether it is in Pakistan or anywhere in the world. The loss, the magnitude which is being assessed by the donors, by United Nations along with donor partners, as the day goes by, we see higher numbers, which we are not going to quote as yet, but the numbers are in billions and billions of dollars, which we have to deal with. If we are left alone at this time, then it will set a very bad precedence in the world, that in these kind of things where Pakistan is definitely not responsible for this climate change catastrophe, our friends, the way they've stood by us, the donors, the agencies, the NGOs, the civil society, the people of Pakistan and the people of the world is extremely valuable for us, and we thank them for that. But please remember, the more you help us, the easier it will be for us to cope with this disaster and save lives. Not only the lives of human beings, but the life of animals, where we have lost more than 1.1 million animals in this disaster, and more than 1,600 people have died. More can die if food is not there in time. The newborns need nutritious food, which we are trying our best to cope with, but all said and done, the entire world has to wake up for this. The entire world has to step up the efforts for climate change, and the fund that has been created but not fully funded has to be utilized in these kind of catastrophes. I thank all who've helped us earlier and all who are going to help us today, as we feel not only Pakistan but each and every person in Pakistan needs the help that we need today. So thank you, and thank you all for attending this session also. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, for your remarks and also for highlighting the long-term economic impact of this disaster and the imperative of sustained longer-term support if Pakistan is to recover from this. I would now like to invite Mr. Julian Harness, who you have heard of from many speakers here, who is also the UN Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator in Pakistan, to provide an overview of the situation of the flood emergency and also the response efforts that he has been coordinating on behalf of the international community. Thank you. Over to you, Julian.
Thank you, Ramesh. Minister, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and I've got a lot of emotion about what I've seen and the people of Pakistan, but that's not where I'll be taking this conversation. I'll be covering the more drier aspects of how the appeal has been designed and the logic of our response in order to show to you that it is the right approach, is a well-thought-through plan, and the $816 million for which we're appealing is the absolute minimum for immediate life-saving humanitarian operations. Pakistan has a great deal of capacity, you've heard it. Benazir Income Support Program that's providing $350 million in cash transfers with the support of the World Bank. National Disaster Management Authority, the provincial disaster management authorities, the military, and then the philanthropy and the people of Pakistan are all doing significant response. So we've analysed that to see what they're doing, and then we've had a certain humility in understanding that our international contribution, thanks to your support through our organisations, is about maybe 20% of the overall response. We aren't doing everything, and we do not have the view that we can do everything. Rather, we are analysing what exists, and we are saying, what are those areas, what are those gaps in the government's capacity? What are the bits that only we as humanitarian organisations have a comparative advantage, and therefore where we need to focus our assistance? Our prioritisation is not based upon our opinion, but it is based upon the expression of what the people believe should be the prioritisation. We did a rapid needs assessment across the provinces of Pakistan, all the provinces, which took weeks, 2 weeks to conduct, and it gives a very clear view as to what the people themselves feel is absolutely essential. Their first priority, health, nutrition, and safe water. And DG Tedros and the other speakers have explained the importance of that. Secondly, food security and shelter. Those are their expressed priorities, and they are reflected in this appeal. We then did a further analysis to see what is our comparative advantage as organisations. Well, we have a field presence through international NGOs, national NGOs, UN agencies. Our particular strength is supporting the government and society to rapidly build up systems and services, and particularly the health, nutrition and water services, which otherwise would not happen. And then there are areas where the government is less well placed to provide those services, and that's particularly in the area of protection and standing up the response to gender-based violence, which is regrettably a problem in our country and is exacerbated by this displacement of 7.9 million people, these complete communities, villages, districts which are on the move and who lose the natural protection of a village and a community and are placed into a chaotic environment in which their protection is at risk. When we have looked at how to provide our services and our assistance, it is under the leadership of the government. The government has a clear structure through the National Floods Relief Coordination Centre, the NFRCC, chaired by the Prime Minister himself, and that brings together the whole of the government, both at federal and national level. So our response and our coordination is embedded into the NFRCC, it's embedded into the NDMA and the PDMAs, so that we are embedded into their leadership at national, federal, national level, provincial level, and then even down to the district level. Finally, our sectors are structured so that they are government-led and that we support those structures to coordinate the assistance across the country. In this document, you will find very little reference to rehabilitation and reconstruction and recovery, and that is designed to be that way because there will be later this year an internationally supported reconstruction conference. And so that gives us down to this last $816 million. We've removed duplication, we've removed reconstruction, we've prioritized based on what the people say is important and what we as professionals know to be the case. This is the absolute minimum to avert the loss of lives in the coming days. We need all of these funds, and we need them quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julian, for your remarks. Last but certainly not least, I would like to invite Ms. Inga Ashing, CEO of Save the Children International, to share some remarks and reflections on behalf of the Pakistan Humanitarian Forum. The floor is yours, Inga.
Thank you very much. I would like to start by thanking the government of Pakistan and the United Nations for the organization of the briefing on the Pakistan flood response. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of the Pakistan Humanitarian Forum, which represents INGOs working in Pakistan, including Save the Children. As in many crises, national NGOs and international NGOs are at the forefront of the humanitarian response, and I would like to share with you the NGO views on the flood response. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the incredible efforts of the Pakistan government to respond to the devastating climate disaster that has hit their country and the humanitarian crisis that is now unfolding. We also stand in solidarity with the efforts of Pakistani aid workers and the millions of affected adults and children who we all aim to serve. On behalf of INGOs operating in Pakistan, I also wish to thank international donors for their response to the initial appeal of $160 million. As everyone in this room is acutely aware, however, this is an unprecedented disaster with immense and evolving needs, and a significant scale-up in response and in funding is required. From what Save the Children is seeing from the ground, Pakistan is now at the grips of a major health emergency. Lack of access to safe water and latrines is triggering the spread of life-threatening illnesses. People are in dire need of shelter. In Sindh province, hundreds of thousands of people are living in filthy conditions in makeshift camps, some with only a plastic sheet to protect themselves from the heavy monsoon rains. In recent need assessment undertaken by Save the Children, the biggest priority for families right now is safe and dignified shelter. We are seeing children dying from diseases, and things will only get worse the longer they go on sleeping outside without shelter, food, and safe water. The floods have caused widespread destruction of livestock and crops, leaving the vast majority of people with no livelihoods and facing high levels of food insecurity. Due to lack of income, access to markets, clean water, and cooking facilities, families have reported to us that they are skipping meals and may not eat over an entire day. We found that over half of the households we spoke to could be classified as living with severe food insecurity. Our teams are doing everything they can to ensure people have food, shelter, and clean drinking water. But the reality is that there aren't nearly enough funds to meet the level of needs. A mental health crisis is also emerging, with many people, particularly women and girls, reporting to us that they are experiencing psychosocial distress and deteriorating mental health as a result of their situation. And we are deeply concerned about how these multiple stresses will impact on vulnerable groups, and in particular the risk that they pose to children's safety. Our recent assessment has shown that the key protector risks emerging for children include child labor, forced marriage, family separation, risky migration, and psychological distress. We're also concerned about the impact of the floods on children's education, which has been significantly interrupted due to damaged schools, transportation issues, and lack of access to learning materials. Children's continued access to education is crucial in times of crisis. Being in school helps to protect them. It gives them a sense of meaning. It gives them hope for the future. And while in school, children can also access key services like psychosocial support and sometimes food and safe water. Considering the dire humanitarian situation and the scale of need, on behalf of international NGOs supporting the flood response, I therefore welcome this much-needed revision of the Pakistani flood response plan. The additional funding will enable a step change in the collective response and ensure humanitarian responders and the Pakistan government are better able to overcome immense logistical challenges, help more people in need, and address the secondary crises that are now unfolding, particularly in relation to public health and food insecurity, as we heard some of the other speakers talk about. To maximize the impact of this funding, we urge donors to fully fund the revised appeal as a matter of urgency and ensure that the funds are quickly dispersed to the humanitarian partners. The sooner we can expand our efforts, the more lives and futures we can protect, and the more suffering and trauma we can alleviate. A fast and effective emergency response also helps lay the foundation for an effective recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction, even if we all understand that that comes later. Every effort must be made to support Pakistan to recover from this crisis and fortify itself against future climate shocks. As the CEO of Save the Children, I also wish to take a moment to highlight the plight of Pakistan's children. As is the case in all crises, they will be the most affected and the most vulnerable in face of this disaster and most in need of our help. They are also Pakistan's future, and we must do our utmost to protect them and shield them from the worst effect of this disaster. Around the world, children have contributed the least to climate disasters, but they are the ones who live now and in the decades to come will be most affected. We adults have a responsibility to act with a necessary urgency and scale to ensure that they receive the support they need to survive and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Inga, for your remarks and also for highlighting the psychosocial impact of the disaster on children. Before opening the floor for statements from the floor, I would like to invite UN agencies and others who have indicated that they would like to present here some additional remarks. So I'd like to hand the floor to the representative of UNICEF. The floor is yours, Manuel.
In the interest of time, and given that so much has been said, I'll be super brief, and so much has been said by Save also on children in particular. One is to reaffirm our commitment and the commitment of UNICEF to stand by the children of Pakistan, of course, and the government in the face of what is the overwhelming consequences of climate change, not the making of their country, but we will argue not the making of their generation as well. Right now, we will focus, as we heard from Julien, and are focusing on child survival, with what we're seeing 500,000 children actually expected to suffer from severe acute malnutrition, and more than 6 million people in need of immediate wash services. So clearly this is our focus right now, but soon we will, with the government of Pakistan, have to focus on education so that 12 million children actually are not paying the price for the destruction of 25,000 schools damaged or destroyed during this moment. Of course, protection is going to be important. So really our commitment is strong, but we are very stretched as humanitarians. We have actually relied a lot on our own core resources so far to respond to this crisis, and on the SURF and a few other funding. But this is definitely a real issue. We're doing that on no regrets basis, but we need the support of everyone. So looking forward to hearing from donors on this support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, UNICEF, for your remarks. I would now like to give the floor to the representative of FAO. Dominic, the floor is yours.
Ramesh, and I would like to, of course, thank everybody for the very informative briefing.